You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales. Streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
2, 1.
Well, my book are mainly for the cold of heart or the sick of mind or the twisted of soul. I mean, I read 2 books by R.L. Stein. Like, let's be real here.
I see Castle's on, Triple B, Meg 2, Kenneth's on. Hello. Hello, my friends. Hope you're having a great day.
Also, it's very cold where I live.
Very, very cold.
I think it got to 30 today. I think it got to 30.
Oh, okay. Well, no. Cold for us is waking up and it's 40.
If it would have got to 40, I would have not had to wear my very soft, very warm Boom Studios hat to work today.
I know. They better bring some more this year for Comics Pro.
I already sent Philip an email going, hey, man, like, if you're going to bring more warm weather gear, can you bring more hats, but also, like, gloves, scarves, long underwear? I will wear Boom Studios long underwear.
You know what they really need, though? You know how they had those little, like, handkerchiefs that had the, Something's Killing Children teeth on it? They just need to do like a warm weather version of that. Castle says it was 92 there. Ooh. Are you sending him a message for what he needs to make?
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah, no. The other thing is that I would like another company to bring like beard care products to Comics Pro, another one to bring like body wash, a shampoo, so I just don't have to pack anything. What I want is to go to Comics Pro and have publishers provide me with a wardrobe.
Oh my.
It's cool, John. I'm not worried about it. We don't worry about that kind of thing around here. We appreciate when you all do it, and if you can't, you can't.
That's right. You guys are equally as loved if you just do the sharing and stuff, because we're really trying to reach as many people as we can. And part of the goal of the channel altogether was to reach people that weren't necessarily comic book people. We wanted to show people that hadn't even thought about comics as something that they might love. Like get them in the door. Because I was, at one point a non-comics person. I was glad that I came in. So.
Right.
You don't like having your name not green and have that cool little whoosh next to your name? Leave all the tags on. Oh, man.
All right.
There's some really cool books out this week. One that I was really excited about because we had an event that was tied to it. So,
sure. Let's get started then.
All right.
Let's see if I can remember how to do this. Jay normally does this. Okay. There we go.
All right. This is awesome. Okay, so this is ASM 39. It is part of a big storyline that's been brewing for a while. If you're just joining the storyline now, you're probably 3 or 4 issues back, but that's okay because it's part of the overarching storyline that's been going on in the universe for a little while. It's all tied to the big vacuum of power for the bad guys that happens in the city when you had Kingpin ousted from his position of power as the mayor, and now Luke Cage is the mayor. But it also leaves this, every territory is up for grabs because recently at a wedding for Tombstone's daughter, he was killed. So everybody has been like jockeying for their slot of the map. So that's what's been going on. Now, this is really the heroes that you see there on the front all getting together to try to stop all of this nonsense, because there really are, it's not safe to be, a bad guy or just a normal person on the street right now because there's so much battling going on. So if you love your Spidey-related bad guys, it's a good read, really great read. And it is awesome because at some point Spidey turns to Jen and tells her she can tank. Like literally, he just turns to her and says, "Tank." She's so happy. So it's a great read. It's probably an important thing to kind of keep up at least. Find out who fills the vacuum of the bad guys and is the new big bad in control. I have a feeling it's not going to be anyone we expect.
Yeah. Okay. So this is Bloodrick. This is one of those books that Image is doing that feels like an old school Image book, not like anything they've done more modern. And I will say this: the storytelling and the writing is not for me. It feels like it's trying to be Conan from the 70s. You know, the Marvel Conan.
Yeah.
And the art really has a cool Conan style like that the musculature and the shading and that kind of stuff has a really cool look. I had the storytelling, the story was good, but I'm just not into that kind of sword and sorcery stuff. At least not right now. And I don't know, it just felt a little weird. It felt like it was trying a little hard. So I liked it. I thought the art was good. If you're into this kind of thing, it was good. The other thing I would just warn you about is that in places the lettering is strange.
Is it the same as the title of the book there?
Well, that was what I was getting at. When they say his name, they use that font. So all of a sudden you're reading along and it's just like this weird random thing with like these branches that come off and you're like, what is happening? So is awkward, but it seems like if this is the kind of thing you're into, it seems great. Like this is one that I would have loved to have Jay read because he's into this kind of stuff more than I am. That said, again, it feels like old school Image. It feels like Image in the 90s, which is its own level of interesting and nostalgic and fun to pay attention to. So, you know.
Oh, this is the one I was talking about. Batman, Santa Claus, Silent Night. I can remember when they announced this book, everyone kind of was like, why Santa Claus? I don't understand this. And so I think that the orders were maybe not as strong as they should have been for this book. Because as late as today, Bleeding Cool finally caught on to the fact that, you know, the things we've been saying for a month now, that Santa Claus is canon for the Batman universe. They have interacted before, and he's interacted with the greater DC pantheon of the Trinity there. But in the canon of the history, Santa Claus has mentored Batman before. So this one's really awesome. It actually delves into, there's tons of other books out there like Klaus from Boom Studios that kind of reimagines him as a young man and as a woodsman. This one's kind of more in that vein where, yes, Santa Claus exists, but he is more related to the Norse mythology. And it describes all of those cool things. But it's some crazy stuff starts happening in the city, and Santa shows up. This one has main characters that are important. Batman, Zatanna. So if you've been missing your Zatanna hit, definitely jump in on this. And some really scary bat-like creatures. You can kind of see them there on that front cover. So this one is the first part of a series. So it's not a single shot. And you will love it. I promise you that it's not a silly, here we'll just throw Santa into a story and see how he goes. It's well thought out, and I hope we see more of Santa Claus.
Yeah, I thought that your event paired with this coming out was really smart. And then with everything I've read about this book, I'm excited to read it. I think it's a cool idea. Mm-hmm. So. All right. Midlife. I read issue 1. I missed issue 2. This is issue 3. And I need to read issue 2 because there's stuff happening that like giant chunk of important missing, right? Especially as it relates to like he now has a super suit. And I have no idea how that happened, how that came about, right? Like I need the moment of no capes, or whatever. Like, so this is a guy who finds out on his 50th birthday that he has a superpower where, he can kind of deal with fire. What exactly is his power? I don't know 100% because, again, I missed issue 2. But he is working essentially as a superhero vigilante firefighter kind of guy. And it's a very interesting kind of story. This takes a little more of a look at his home life situation, his outside of the firefighter world, his family situation with his fiance wife person and his niece, and looking for his sister and the drug addicts and people that she hangs out with because she needs help too, and kind of that part of it, which was interesting to me. So I'm really liking Midlife. Like I said, I need to go back and read number 2, but I won't miss this one again.
Oh, okay. So I don't know if you guys have read any of these cool Image Skybound creep shows, but this is I think all of them have been single shots. Maybe there was a series at the very beginning and then they jumped to single shots, but they're just like any creep show. They're anthology. So this one's just got 2 stories in it. 2. One deals with a little girl and her, I don't know, they must be all older brothers, or maybe there's some cousins involved or something that are teasing her mercilessly, including telling her such nonsense as that Santa Claus isn't real. And it's so mean, and the art style is so cool in it. It's a real dirty art style, which I actually, it lends itself perfectly for this. In which the through line for the storyline is that with Santa Claus, all things are possible, or anything is possible at Christmas. So, and it's brutal. It's very scary. And the second story is just as gruesome. There are really cool ways to creep yourself out during the holidays, I guess. This is the best one. The second story, however, will probably sicken you a lot. This is really, really not for younger folk. So enjoy some creep show and creeping yourself out.
All right.
Cheap show, Triple P.
That's a different one. This one about chickens. All right. This is another one that I thought I had read, and I clearly had not. Or maybe I read 1 but didn't read 2.
I think that's more likely. Hey, Phil.
But like, I don't even remember this character if I had read issue 1. So like, again, this is one of those, I've got to go back and try and find it and figure it out. But this is a vampire story. Again, I feel like I'm missing huge chunks with some of these books that make it hard to kind of tell you what's happening. But your main character there is a vampire, the sexy kind, but not the glittery kind. If you need that differentiation, but also not like it's this,
the cute kid on the cover with in the overalls.
Yeah, she's a vampire.
She's a sexy kind.
Well, when she's a vampire, when she's a normal person, she's just like a late teens, early 20s kind of hipster.
Oh, okay.
And then like when she switches, she's like, I'm a vampire, but I also wear like cat ears and, kind of that kind of, it's super awkward. I really can't say a lot because again, I don't know what's happening. Because it kind of starts and moves from a point where if you read issue 2, you would know what's happening.
Is that thing that's on the cover with her? Is that a werewolf or a dragon, or does it say?
I don't remember this being in the book.
Oh, the cover is a lie. Okay.
Right. Now, I think that's like her pet, right? Like, but at the same time, I don't really know because again, it's like the thing where somebody tells you a story and goes, "Do you remember when that guy did that thing?" And you're like, "No, I wasn't there."
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately for Image right now, one of the things they're doing with these miniseries is they're serializing them too much. So if you read the first bit but missed the second, and now you're jumping back in on number 3 without having read number 2 first, you're completely lost and it will turn you off. They need to serialize a little less or do the thing where previously in this issue or in this story, this is what has happened. Right? Remind us of what we're supposed to know so that we know what we're supposed to know going forward.
It's also a reminder that like it's real easy to pull up to get your pull box and read number 1 and be like, oh, I really like that, but forget to tell your LCS. And then you miss number 2 because you forgot to say. So it's like just a reminder.
Well, I'll give you for instance. There was a book, Fire and Ice. Frank Frazetta's Fire and Ice from Dynamite is coming out this week. Number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1 happened like 3 months ago.
It is a while ago. I interviewed Sarah about that.
Right. It's like, I can't read this book because I would have to go find number 1, reread number 1 to be able to remember what happened in number 2. And it just doesn't work like that. So rather than include that book tonight, I just didn't. And unfortunately, I think Image is doing it monthly instead of, I understand if there's like a 4-month gap, right? Like what happened with Fire and Ice. Delays happen, things happen, schedules change. But I know Knights number 1 came out like in October.
Mm-hmm.
So if I miss 1 month or whatever, or I didn't, God forbid, I had to tell my retailer that I wanted to order this book before I had read number 1 because the FOC's out of order. Now I don't get number 2, but I'm like, I want to read this book. Now I'm getting number 3, and now I'm back out because I missed number 2. It's not conducive to ongoing reading. So my pitch, first page of every comic book, previously on.
It would be nice.
So
it would be the first page. It could be the inside of the front cover.
Right. So.
Okay. Legendary Red Sonja. So Legendary is the name of a place, just so you know, where everything is more steampunky, very clearly, as she is on the front cover. This is a single shot, so you literally don't have to know anything about the Legendary Red Sonja series that have gone before because you don't need them. All you need to know is you need to really, really like cool redheads that are doing things. This one, without ruining anything for you, it is really a great standalone story. And I myself am not the usual Red Sonja reader, despite the fact that I have red hair. But it's exceptional. This is a good book to try if you are like, Dynamite's Red Sonja and Vampirilla books I'm not real sure about. This is a great, well, actually, I've been thinking about doing this cosplay because I was like, this is doable. I could wear these pants because I cannot wear a loincloth because that is not good for fighting. Don't really know how you get around in that thing. So anyway, try this out in the city of Legendary or the town of Legendary. See what happens.
So just as a little pro tip, if you see a book from Dynamite and it has the word Legendary and those gears, grab it. Okay. This is Our Bones Dust number 1. I have to read this book 2 or 3 more times.
Ooh, is that good?
It is, but it's also incredibly confusing as a story. And part of it is because you have to understand the kind of story that Ben Stenbeck, who is part of that Mike Mignola school of storytelling, is trying to tell. right? It's about a semi-feral child, right? Who's part predator, part prey, in this weird futuristic post-apocalyptic kind of world. And some of the nuance of what role does your main character play in the situation they're in. If you're trying to read for speed, which I do have to do on Tuesdays, it's easy to gloss over what I think are moments you shouldn't be glossing over.
Okay.
It really does just need to, it requires you to slow down and read and reread and reread certain panels rather than paying attention, rather than just being able to go front to end, right? You've got to really break it down. And so I need to reread it. It was written and drawn both by Ben Stenbeck, which is cool. So it's got one very cohesive voice and theme and feel, which is nice. I think this might be one of the coolest books that Image has done in a while. In terms of, it has a lot that you could do with it. This could easily be The Walking Dead type, where it's sort of a found family traveling together in a world that is similar but very dissimilar to ours, where it becomes like the relatable parts of The Walking Dead. I think this could have that going for it, but I think the note I would give to Ben Stenbeck on it is, it feels like at times you are complicated for the sake of being complicated, not complicated for the sake of telling the story. So I really liked it, but you need to read it slow.
The Miracles.
I was hoping I would get a shot at this one, but we didn't get it, and I'm bummed because I wanted to read this.
This was pretty interesting. On its, like when you just like give like the brief synopsis about it, it feels like stuff that's happened before or has been done before or approached this material kind of this way before, but it just feels fresh somehow. So in this book, you're introduced to the main character first, who is kind of like reading a comic book as a kiddo. He's super obsessed with the characters, but he's basically telling us at the beginning that the person who originally did the book, something happened and they never got to finish the series. So everyone has been left hanging forever, and there's no hope for it to ever to be finished. I think the author died. And so it kind of pushes forward a little bit to his everyday life, in which, under stress of a very like confrontational situation, he realizes that he has abilities. So it all comes on at once. It all seems like whatever he really wants to have happen. Like if you're attacked with a knife, his skin becomes, like impenetrable. It becomes really strong. Those kinds of things. And so there's a fairly big twist that I don't know if it's part of the solicitation or not. So I don't want to mess it up for you. But it becomes very meta. The whole, he's got powers, but he was obsessed with this book. There's a reason. So this one is probably great for fans of maybe like Invincible. Kind of feels like that, maybe mixed a little bit with Crossover, the Donny Cates. So it's this is a really big, thick book, and I really liked this beginning for it. And it's so for the price point, it feels like it's definitely worth the money. And I'm not really. It's so hard to sell me on any book that is superhero related, because I feel like there's just a ton of it out there right now. But this one feels more like it's going to make me happy. Like I'm okay for the excursus for things like The Boys or Invincible or Jupiter's Legacy or those kinds of things that are different enough that that are intriguing. So I mean, it tells you some things, but it doesn't tell you everything in this first one. So
okay. Stuff of Nightmares Sleigh Ride. This book was great if you already have a pretty twisted relationship with Christmas and mall Santas. Anyone who ever read Happy probably has a little bit of a messed up relationship with mall Santas. So this kind of really feeds into that world. But it's the story of a mall Santa who, in the face of changing times and unemployment, and who may not have been 100% there to begin with, finds himself unemployed and in a situation where he believes he is Santa. He has kind of accepted the mantle, as it were. And rather than accepting the change, he decides, well, I'm going to get even. At which point, like, it becomes sort of like Ratcatcher from DC Comics meets the Santa from, like, that movie Silent Night, or any of these recent serial killer Santa movies. And I will say this, because it's a one shot from R.L. Stine, it ties everything up in a really unique and interesting way that you wouldn't expect. But only after there's a significant amount of, I don't know that I think the same way about this thing that I used to think about this thing. And I'm terrified by it. So, like I said, it's one of those, R.L. Stine does a good job of telling an adult scary story. In this instance, but also by feeding on some of the stereotypical, what have you, fears as it regards the man with the beard.
Oh, snap.
Okay, before we go any further.
Yeah.
Is this just Sentry, or does my boy Void show up?
I don't know that I can answer that question. It's nuns, as far as I can tell. So the Sentry follows multiple people who, it looks like they're doing normal everyday life stuff. And the building that they're in basically explodes and makes a giant hole in the ground. And they have other superheroes show up to try to figure out what's gone on and try to do a rescue thing. They realize that there's one person that's missing that should be part of that, and it ends up being these people. And then the story kind of like tells itself in that it shows the events in which that happens, but then it goes back and shows you what happened to create that giant explosion, whatever, and who the person is. So it looks like multiple people have all of a sudden had the power of the Sentry, which I think it's described as the power of 1,000 suns or some craziness. So more powerful than Carol, it turns out, because she has the power of one sun, which is enough. But so this is the beginning of where the power come from. The original Sentry is not supposed to be alive anymore. And who else is going to show up? So this one is a perfect spot to jump on if you don't know anything about the Sentry, because this is, I think, where they're bringing in the new generation of stuff happening into that character. And I really liked it, but I've also already liked the Sentry, so they could have brought back the original guy if they wanted to, but This is cool.
I kind of miss them doing Sentry as a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde with Void. Right? Two sides of the same coin sort of situation. It's like they don't want to admit that any of their heroes could also be bad guys.
Right.
And that makes the character to me significantly less interesting. So I'll be interested to see how this story does and if it finds a way to counteract that sort of system where it's okay, it's just Sentry. Oh, well, he's doing this. Well, that makes him interesting again. So I'll be interested to see. This is what I'm looking forward to reading. Okay. Miss Jen, I know you love Matt Kint.
I do. And you read the first one of this one, right?
Yes. And I love Matt Kint. So I'm going to give Matt Kint a piece of advice. Punt.
Punt. Oh, no.
The design and the art of this book from Wilfredo Torres and that side of the team are the only redeeming quality I can find in this book at this point. The use of negative space in the trade dress, it almost feels like some of the pages are like this cover where it's mixed media and layered and really interesting. And then there are pages that feel too digital, where it's like, okay, you clearly drew this whole thing on an iPad and never, you never penciled anything or sketched anything. And then there are parts that are, again, like a mix of that plus a more traditional style. And the writing just doesn't live up to the work the art is doing. Right? The story isn't cohesive and you don't necessarily care about the characters. And it's killing me because I want to be so in on this book. Everything about this book should be right up my alley. It should really be my jam. And it's just like, I'm 2 issues in and I don't know why I should care. And so Wilfredo Torres, Bill Crabtree, you guys are doing phenomenal work on this book. Matt, I don't know, man. Maybe you need to have another editor's pass or something, but it's just not working. And I will say this too. Perhaps this is one of those books that was written as an OGN or a trade and then split up into single issues. So it was never meant to be read the way we're reading it. I would be willing to accept that as a reason that for this to be a little bit of a miss, right? Because I know that's happening. These guys are pitching full graphic novels and these publishers are splitting them up. So again, that could be a thing, but it isn't doing it for me, man. And I want it to so bad.
Papa's going to cook dinner.
Oh, hey, I did 2 in a row. I didn't mean to do this. Okay, Time Traveler's Tales by originally by Carl Jacobs. This particular issue is by Dave Scheid, who you may know from working with Scoot McMahon, my homie, on things like Wrapped Up and some other books. This is an all-ages book that isn't for all ages.
Yeah. Is it all teenagers?
No, it's... Do you guys know like how Ren and Stimpy was really not made for kids, but there were things that drew kids to it? This kind of feels like that. There are things that will be totally relatable to young people while they're missing other big parts of the story, right? I think, too, to jump in on this story, you need to have some backstory on Time Traveler Tales. The pocket watch is important, but you don't know about the pocket watch until the end. you just find yourself like sort of following this character in a Joe Exotic kind of Tiger King situation where these people on this farm are like protecting circus animals, and the circus animals are all kind of obsessed with root beer. And then at the end, the root beer is the undoing of the bad guys. Like, is this humor for kids or is it for adults? Because if it's for adults, it's not quite adult enough. If it's for kids, it's not quite kid enough. And a teenager is going to look at this and go, this is stupid. Right? Like, it kind of just, maybe it's for middle schoolers. That might be the goal.
Middle school needs stuff too, that's for sure.
Right. And that might work. I don't know. I don't really think like a middle schooler. Although people would say I am a giant one. But I don't know. I liked it. And if this continues, I'll continue reading it. Because it feels like if Quantum Leap were made for the 9 to 13-year-old crowd. And I think that has a lot of potential. And I know Dave's sense of humor from reading other things he's done. So I think he could really play into that. So again, first issue may have fallen a little bit prey to like pilot syndrome, where we're just trying to make sure you have all the things you need to have going forward. And so if this feels a little weak or a little off, that's why. So I'll be interested to see what happens if there's an issue 2.
Perfect.
The Bolt.
Oh, snap. Thunderbolts. I've gotten more and more proud of Marvel for knowing what it has coming up in the kitty for shows and giving us something new to be reading at the same time. It may not have to be the same team or anything else about it, just as long as there is a title running. Did a great job for having a couple titles running for Captain Marvel. So just in case there was something that was like, I dug this show. I wish I could read something more about it. So they had it around. So this one is great. So it is pretty self-explanatory from the subtitle there. The Red Skull must die. So this is Bucky, and I will let you discover all of the rest of the teammates because the reveal for some of them is really awesome. That you think it's going to be one person and it's somebody else, like their shadow looks remarkably like somebody else's, but it's not. And it's really them showing up to take down everything that surrounds the Hydra machine, including trying to find the Red Skull, which that isn't straightforward either. It's a great setup for what's going to come past it. And for fans of, let's say, if you liked the run of Thunderbolts that had, the last one I really, really loved was the one where they had Kobik, and that dynamic of that team was really good. So far, I really like this one, although it wasn't about the team so much as getting everyone together to go on the hunt. So fun things, some characters that haven't seen in the comic books necessarily recently. So you'll like them.
Is that Bucky on the cover?
Yeah. He's got a cool new outfit with.
I like it. I was just thinking that, like, when was the last time he got a cool new outfit?
Oh, I don't know.
It's been a while. I'm excited that he has a cool new outfit.
On his arm, instead of having the typical patch, it's almost like a red outline, almost like anarchy symbol. It looks really cool.
I like it.
This looks
nice
cool.
Jewish boys #2. Again, this is a Comixology original right now. So as a reminder, this book is coming out right now digital first. And then based on some of the feedback and response they get, traditionally, these books have been edited a little further before being re-released by Dark Horse into stores. Why do I mention that? Because generally I wind up reading them both.
Mm-hmm.
it's been very fun to watch books come out that are like, okay, I could see this being okay on digital, but it's never going to work when you print it. This, however, feels a little bit like it'll work both ways. So if you remember from the first issue, this is a story about what would you do, not only to fit into your community, but when you're backed into a corner, how far would you go to give your family the life that you're trying to give them? To boil it down, it's what would you do for a Klondike bar? Would you kill a man? Would you launder money? Would you run drugs? Well, these guys would.
Okay.
Granted, they're getting more than a Klondike bar out of it. But what's interesting about this to me is the fact that it's all set in a Hasidic community. Right? So it's all of this stuff is happening in this incredibly religious framework of this, this Jewish community.
Yeah.
And so,
It's a very orthodox.
Yeah. If you're familiar with the history of like Murder Incorporated and things like that, Albert Anastasia and some of those like real life characters, this feels like it borrows from that concept, right? You're a very insular community with very insular problems, right? Your expectations aren't the same in your community as other people's are in their communities. And how do you reconcile the two things? So this book has a very interesting narrative structure. I thought maybe the first issue would be like that, and then it would move into a more traditional narrative structure, but it's not true. This almost feels like Forrest Gump, where he's sitting on the park bench telling the lady his story, and you're being thrown into these moments almost as like a third-party observer. That's what this is like. I didn't know what I was walking into when I walked into the store, but then I got in the store. And then you're in the store watching the thing happen, which is cool. Like in a comic book, it works really well. So I'm really digging this. I don't know how much it would need to be changed to be published from in a traditional sense or to be in comic book shops. I would imagine taking the pew pew off of the cover is something that would maybe need to happen for some shops. But other than that, this book has been really fun. It also has, just throwing it out there, I'm going to make him an offer. For the yarmulke. Kind of feels like, really does feel like it's the Jewish Godfather.
I'm wondering what's going to happen next because Comixology officially died today.
Yesterday?
12/4. So I don't know.
Again, Comixology Originals is an imprint of Dark Horse Comics. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we could talk about this because, like, this week neither of us read, which is from Dogu Publishing, which is an imprint at Dark Horse. I had Matt Kint's book, which was a Dark Horse book that's from his imprint at Dark Horse. We know Eric Powell has his own imprint at Dark Horse. And today the big news came through that Mark Millar is moving the Millar World stuff to Dark Horse, where I believe they're going to give him his own imprint. So does Comixology survive in name sort of faction only as this imprint at Dark Horse? I don't know. We'll have to see, but it'll be interesting to watch.
Oh, yeah. It's never boring. Okay, so this book made me realize that I probably need to go back and grab up the rest of this Beast World series because I did not realize, I thought they were for some reason little one-shots because there has been Titans, Beast World, some other subtitles. And I was like, well, okay, I'm not normally a Titans reader, so I don't know why I would grab this up. But I just picked up this today because I like Waller. So this is incredibly good and makes me realize that I need to go back and get the rest of them because it is tied to the main DC Universe happenings. And in this case, what's happened is the stuff that makes Beast Boy able to turn into creatures has somehow been dumped on the city or the DC universe, and so that there are many other superheroes, etc., that can now do this, including, I think it was last week, maybe it's part of the other title that's also Beast World this week, you get to see Nightwing's other form, which is hecka sexy. And so he's not like he wasn't already sexy enough. So this is really cool storytelling. As you see, there's Black Manta on there. That's a really big part of the storyline. If you want to jump into something cool that's DC, this piece of the world, you could just get the Beast World storyline and then enjoy it, because I think there's been only 2 before this one. This one's wicked awesome, and it's also a big thick book.
Is there one, do you know, that Tom Taylor is doing? Okay, maybe. Next week, Titans Beast World #2, Tom Taylor. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and say, because Tom and I are friends on the socials, and I saw a post he made and then deleted, next week's book is a pointy book.
Oh, heck yeah.
I will also say I didn't realize that you could introduce She-Hulk into the Titans universe. Or legally not She-Hulk.
Wire fence. Okay, so there are really great things about this book, and there are some not great things about this book. The great things about this book are the art style. It is like this cover. It's really cool. It also is cool that it deals in first people stuff. The character there is Lakota. And of course, there's a wet buffalo that's part of it. That part's all cool. The part that I didn't get, and maybe it just need to go read it again or try to read it not quickly like we have to do for review. There's a bunch they do the right thing by giving you the place and the date. So they tell you this is 1889, this is 19 whatever. But it jumps around so much, like within one page, there's 4 time jumps, but they're just images. So I'm not really sure what it's trying to say and what it's saying, except for maybe this character has been around a long time doing what they're doing. But it appears that they have power over barbed wire. The main character's name is BBQ, which is cool how they say her name is Barbara something. It makes sense because all the initials end up being BBQ. So I don't know. You guys will read this book and be like, Miss Jen, I totally understood it. But for me, reading it quickly, I was like, why are we jumping around so much?
All right. I think that's it, Miss Jen. It is. We got through everything.
I've got one last thing to say. So Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. There was a variant book for #1 that did not arrive with the #1s. Your LCS was not lying to you. It was heavily allocated and took them forever to make because it has a sound chip in it. But you think that, after generations of Hallmark cards that they could figure out how to do a sound chip. But they're just now arriving to your LCSs this week, and they were heavily allocated. So your shop might have one. Don't be mad at them. And I understand there's a variation of the chip. There are Godzilla chips and King Kong chips. I don't know how you tell unless you buy one and open it and do its little thing. But there you go.
So I will tell you this because our friend Mark and I talked about this a lot last night on the Nerd News Now. So there are 2 variants. And by the way, they're like $15 covers. That one is the Kong yell and one is the Godzilla roar. Yes. They were open order, but they were allocated. Just know that if you get one and you show it to your friends and they hate you after, it's the same reason they hate when you buy them singing Christmas cards. No, I think it's a really cool concept, but if you're a publisher out there and you're looking at this going, gee, we should do that. Don't. Like, of all the gimmicks, sound chips that goes off every time I turn the page is not one you should be doing. You know? So that is a fun little interesting tidbit about those.
Hey, Make Two, Kyle does have a show later today.
No,
it's not today.
Mondays.
Oh, Monday,
so Make Two, just to kind of clarify, all the shows are my shows, including Miss Jen shows. My official title here is executive producer. So I oversee all the shows. I'm on this one. And I do a show on Monday nights at 10 o'clock Eastern, soon to be 10:30 Eastern, with Bronze Age Nerd here on the Experience called Devil's Advocates. And then on occasion, I pop up on other things when a warm body who can form sentences kind of is needed. So I'm here and I'm there, and you may see me on some other things once in a while, but for right now, it's just these two shows, and sometimes, and based on the way the future is, maybe not even those. So
Kyle's getting busy. The back end production stuff is ramping up for him. So.
Yeah. Well, we have some time, so talk about it, guys. Remember the push for 2,500. The more subscribers we get, the more content we're launching, right? So we've got pieces of content that are ready to go out that we can't launch until we get to 2,500 subscribers. If you are not a subscriber but you're watching us, click subscribe on YouTube.
It costs you nothing.
If you have friends who you know would love our shows but aren't watching us, send them our YouTube and say, hit subscribe. And when we get to 2,500, we'll launch the next piece of content. Right? And then more and more and more content, including an announcement that is coming Monday of next week. Just because I have to have some time to put the announcement together. So, and remember, guys, next week, Jay will be back on the show with us. So you won't just have to look at me. You'll have to look at him too. And for Jay and Jen, I want to remind everybody, it's very important to us that you visit your local comic shop. If you don't know where your local comic shop is, or you don't think you have a local comic shop, you can find one. ComicShopLocator.com. Go to ComicShopLocator.com. There's a little box where it asks you to type in where you're at. You type in where you're at, and it'll tell you where there are comic shops nearby to you so that you can go and visit them and spend money. Always remember, guys, and this is a super important thing. We say it all the time. An extra $5 a week from customers is a huge deal to a local comic shop.
Just spend $5 to keep them alive.
Right. Spend $5, keep them alive. Like, so many people are out there struggling right now. You see it across the board. Jen and I see it every day from our retailer friends and other people in the industry who we know are hurting. So especially this time of the year, go into your local comic shop. Be cool. Don't be a jerk. If they don't have the book you want, be cool, but try and spend $5. It's a huge difference. Mm-hmm. Did I say all the things?
It's perfect.
Cool. So, Miss Jen is going to go over to CBSN for her sales show. I will be backstage and running the show here on The Experience, immediately following this one with Mint Hunter Comics.
Ooh, Mint Hunter.
Yes. So we will see everybody next week, where we will have read/skimmed more books for more minutes, and we will tell you what they are and what they're about. I feel like I'm forgetting something.
Nope.
Bye, guys. Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere The Experience is all the time.